Hi. One of the things we're often asked about is how do I encourage my child, especially as they get into upper primary and getting ready for secondary school. So this is a very crucial part of education. There are lots of crucial parts of education, but this is a very concerning part for a lot of parents. We always want our children to get into the best school, whether it's the best primary school, the best secondary school, the best university. Of course, we always want the best for our children. But what can we do to help? We often say we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink. We can give the students all the tools they need, but it really is up to the children themselves to apply those when they are in school, sitting exams or attending interviews. So today I'm going to give some top tips around effective study habits. I think this is really important. It sort of answers quite a lot of those questions, not so much on the academic side, that can be handled in school, in classes such as we offer, or even through homework and extra activities at home, extra exercises at home. But if we look at study habits and creating good, effective study habits, this can really help. The first habit that I want to talk about is about really promoting regular reading. That sounds like a no-brainer, but it's so important to try and encourage children to read. I don't mean standing over them saying, you've got to read because you've got to read. But once children start to develop a love of reading, then it really does open up extra opportunity for them. It builds vocabulary. It builds creativity. Are you regular readers as a family? Do your children see you reading? It's great if they do. And if they don't, find out what they're interested in. A lot of times I have parents asking me, oh, but my kids hate reading. Well, they probably do because of what they're being given to read. Probably they're bored. I know as a child, I found reading really difficult because I was always given material that just wasn't interesting. If I was given a book about sharks or nature or travel, I was all over it. I loved it. But if it was a story about princesses or unicorns weren't so popular in those days, but really I just wasn't interested. So finding out your child's interest is a massive step towards encouraging them to read more. It's very well known that children who do have a love for reading and who read regularly often find learning easier. It's also well known that children who struggle with reading sometimes find learning a bit more challenging. So see if you can really develop and boost those reading skills. The next point is all about open communication. It's so good when I hear families tell me that there is an open platform for discussion at home. It's great to hear that parents talk about their week at work and share with their children the ups and downs they've had, as in detail or not as they wish. But children learn by example, and if we share how we're getting on, often children will share about their school week as well and their learning journey. Remember, it's not always about focusing on those results, the end results, the exam results, but it's about the process of how we get there. And understanding what children are struggling with and having them feel free to talk about something they're struggling with or to share with you the successes they've had is wonderful. I love to hear about that. Often during these times when we do share, we can give praise for achievement. I don't just mean great exam results, but recognizing small steps that children are taking, positive steps to get towards their end goal. So it could be, yes, it could be that an exam result is a few percent or many percent higher than the previous one, but things like homework, looking at homework that's been handed in, marked and returned, it could be that the few pieces before were all jumbled up, sentence structure not great, tenses not in the right place or not correct, and lots of red marks from the teacher, lots of minus marks. And then the most recent piece that's been handed in and returned has a lot less marks on it. So the child has actually taken the time to read through, proofread and correct their work before handing it in. that could be something that you're really specific about, and acknowledge that, not just great job overall, but being really specific about little steps that your child's making. It really gives them a sense of achievement and they think, yes, I can do it. I can really get on with this. That leads us on to the next tip that I have, and that is all about empowerment. And I love the word empowerment. This is not about us standing over children and saying, you've got to do your work, you've got to do your work, and then begrudgingly getting on with it and dragging their heels and taking forever. It's about children taking responsibility for their own learning journey and for their own success. When children buy into that learning process, really their achievement is so much more than when they're just being nagged to do it. Often I hear parents saying, oh, homework takes so long, what can I do? Why is it that my child never seems to get this right, or they always make the same mistakes? Why can't I get my children to read? I ask my children to write a diary, but they won't do it. No, of course they won't, because you're the parents. It's very difficult as parents, myself included, it's very difficult to encourage your child to work for you. You're not the teacher. As educators, it's much more simple. If I set homework for my students, they do it. They do it and return it. But we can set goals for our children, and this is something I love. I think goal setting is so important. And when I say goal setting, I'm thinking about the empowerment side as well. It's having the children buy into that success. What do I mean by that? When we set goals here, we work with the children and often the parents as well to discuss what sort of goals the children should be working on. If I look at a child's piece of work and I say, you should have a goal in this, as usual, the eyes would roll back or roll up, and I wouldn't really get the buy-in from the student. But if I say to the students, what is it you're struggling with? What do you find difficult? And they tell me what they think is difficult. Of course, I can offer suggestion. I can say, well, yes, perhaps your speaking fluency could do with a little bit of practice. But what do you think about grammar? How are you feeling about grammar at the moment? Are you using your conjunctions properly, or your tenses, or whatever grammar point they want to be working on? And quite often they'll say, oh, yeah, actually, I do need a bit of help with grammar. I struggle with that, or proofreading, or whatever it might be. And then you're getting the child to buy in to what it is they need to be working on. They understand that that is a part they struggle with, not just because I've told them that. You might throw out a few ideas because I'm sure there's a few things they might need to be working on. But then we set small, measurable steps towards the goal. So we set the end goal, what does success look like? And then our goals here span over 12 weeks. A goal is not a quick fix. So we often get stressed out when we hear exam results or comments from the teachers or report cards coming back to us as parents, and we think, you know, why can't my child do better in exams? Why do they keep failing? Why do they keep getting lower marks when I know that they're capable of doing so much better? What's wrong with my child? What's wrong with me? There isn't really anything wrong with you. The point is that you're just focusing on those, whereas if we backtrack and look at setting goals long term, this really does set students up for success. It's proven successful time and time again. Goal setting, whether it's personal goals with our children through their education, whether it's business goals, personal fitness goals, whatever, goal setting really, really works. So this is a tip that I really want you to have a think about and see how you can help at home, either by setting your own goals or working with educators to help set goals for the children. It's also really important when you achieve the goal to recognize the success. Again, what I said before about praise, it's not just, yeah, overall great, you're doing a fabulous job, but more about well done. I've seen that you have chipped away at these 12 steps over the 12 weeks, and you have achieved that goal, and I'm so proud of you. Here at Mud Pies, what we do is we ask the children to decide how they're going to celebrate achieving the goal. And it might be something very simple. It might be something like they want to have a 5-minute game at the end of class, or it might be that they want to have a nice dinner at home with their parents or go out for dinner or something like that, and they will communicate with their parents to see if that's something feasible. And I always encourage parents and children to work together on this, because if children feel that they've made that achievement and it's celebrated, then they really feel empowered to do better. Another top tip I have is to recognize that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to learning. This is really important. I'm going to start with a quote by Albert Einstein, and I love this. He said, "Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its entire life believing that it is stupid." Think about that. It's really important that we work with children based on their own individual needs, strengths, and weaknesses. We can't say that every child should be challenged in the same way. And often when we're looking at educating and building up good study habits in this case, things are done very differently from when we were at school or when our parents were at school. When I was at school, things are now very old-fashioned to those days. I see how children react to different methods. I see how children respond to different ideas in the classroom. And it is very, very different. The world is very different, certainly in the last 12 months, than it was a year ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And so we have to be adaptable. And it's really good if you can engage with your child and find out what the process is at school. I often hear parents saying they sit there doing grammar tables with their children, but it just doesn't go in. Well, no, quite often it doesn't, because children now don't learn in that way. And we have to find more creative ways to help them get those ideas to sink in. There's loads of different ideas available, so you can always talk with us. You can ask more questions online for us to answer through video, or you can do your own research to find those out. The last tip I have around building effective study habits is all around enthusiasm and a passion for learning. And this sort of wraps up all the other tips. Positivity breeds success. I've got no doubts about that. And I think it's great when I hear parents and educators talking with children very positively about their learning journey. I think it's great when I hear children get excited, and I have these conversations with children all the time where they're telling me about this or that or what they've been doing. At the beginning of the class, I always start with, "Tell me, how's your week been? What have you been up to?" And just getting them fired up and talking shows that they are positive and that they are enthusiastic and their minds are ready to learn when they're in the classroom. It's great if we can ask more questions. So often parents say to me, "Well, I know they're doing well in school, but when it comes to exams, I'm not really sure why they don't get the right grades, or I'm not really sure why they don't get success in interview." Well, that's because we're focusing on the end result again. If we go back and we're having the conversations when I talked about communication every week, building enthusiasm and positivity around learning, if we can say to our children, "Can you tell me 3 things that were fantastic today at school? What 3 things did you learn today at school?" And get into that regular habit of really wanting to know and understand what our children are doing, you'll soon find out a lot of information that you never knew before. And if you are doing it, that's wonderful. It's really, really good to get a sense and understanding of how your child feels about their schooling, about education, and about things that they're struggling with as well. And that can always be a question. Okay, what are the 3 things that didn't go so well? And that doesn't sound as enthusiastic, but then you can take those things, sort them out, or create a goal or a plan to help with those. But again, you can give praise for the things that are going well. And that enthusiasm and positivity really does breed success. I hope this little video has been useful for you. and given you some tips on how to create effective study habits at home and what you can do as a family and work together with educators to really help your child be successful and recognise the successes that they have throughout their learning journey. Bye for now.